fans, and welcome back to Majors Quarantine Corner, presented by Fanshawe College, the official educational partner of the London Majors. I'm Noah Smith. Dylan Baker back with me for another week here. And episode 8, Dylan, comes and we get another great guest as Adwin Springer joins the show.
Yeah, we're very excited to talk to Adwin. Adwin, of course, played with the team between 2011 and 2013. A guy that was really loved around the clubhouse, and talking to former player or current players that played with him and former players as well, you can really hear that he was a guy that they enjoyed being around. They loved talking to Adwin. They loved playing with Adwin. He was also a very talented player on the field, making the All-Star team in 2013.
We'll talk to him a little bit about that and about his story and coming to the London Majors. But first, Dylan, we'd like to give a big congratulations to all the graduates out there, all of you guys that may not get to have your graduation ceremony. We here at the Majors would like to congratulate you.
Yeah, for sure. Whether you're graduating from 8th grade, moving on to high school, graduating from high school to university, or those of you who've gone from post-secondary into what they call the real world, we're congratulating you, and we wish you good luck in all your future endeavors.
Also, Dylan, we have some big news kind of going around the IBL over the last week or so. It looks like the league will be welcoming a 9th team in the 2021 season. We're not told where that team is yet, but when they do come, we'll be sure to welcome them with open arms.
We most certainly will, Noah, as we're very excited to see where this team is. I know for me, at least, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat waiting to hear what city has received an expansion team. It'll only help grow the league. It'll only make it better, and we're excited to hear where that city is.
So without further ado, Dylan, we'll go ahead and we will welcome our guest this week on Majors Quarantine Corner, Adwin Springer. All right, we are joined now by former London Major Adwin Springer. Adwin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Can't complain.
Good to hear, Adwin. Now, diving right into things, growing up in Toronto, did you ever hear about the IBL, or did you ever think that maybe it's something you could do in the future?
Yeah, I actually did hear about the IBL. I grew up in Scarborough, so we would often go down to Christie Pitts to watch the Toronto Maple Leafs play on Sundays. So I still remember vividly my little brother and I going and getting an IBL baseball and taking it home and getting it signed and doing all that stuff. So I definitely was familiar with the league, and as things progressed in my own career, it was something I look forward to being a part of.
Now, you talk about things in your own career. Before that, you went to Wayne State University. Tell us just a little bit about that experience.
It was a great experience. I went to Wayne State University in 2002. It's a program that has grown in regards to competitiveness and the ability to recruit players. So I know, after I left, they continued to improve the facilities, et cetera. So I always say Wayne State was a great place to be because it showed me what building was all about, building something not necessarily from scratch, but, creating a winning atmosphere and a positive atmosphere for younger guys to come behind. So
it's great that you're able to have such a positive experience in college. Now, in addition to your time at Wayne State University, you played with the Michigan Jetbox, who the Majors usually see before the season gets going for an exhibition doubleheader every season. Talk to us a little bit about your experience there.
Playing for Jetbox was great. It was really an extension of playing at Wayne State University because the team was really Michigan focused, Wayne State being in Michigan. A lot of the guys that were on that team played at Wayne State with me, either before I did or obviously with me. And then some guys that played after me at Wayne State also played on Jetbox. So it was kind of like, a brotherhood per se. And when you first get out of school and you've got a job and you're working, it's a great group of guys to network with and to be around. And we played some competitive baseball too and won a World Series in the league we were in down there. So a lot of great and fond memories playing for Jetbox.
Now, when you were with Jetbox, I imagine you got the chance to play against the London Majors in their annual game. Is there any connection there between Jetbox and getting your start with the Majors?
Well, they're not necessarily with Jetbox per se, but with some guys who played at Wayne, and then another guy, Alan Catrice, that I played with on the junior national team and against in Michigan when he went to Michigan State. So that was kind of the connection that got me started. I actually just went out to a game in 2011. The season had already started, and I had planned to play in Windsor, but I was living in London. And obviously I did that drive a couple times and it just wasn't really working out. So I saw him and Paul Lamantia, who was playing that year too. And said, you know what, I think might be a good shot for me to come out and play with you guys. And they agreed. And that's kind of how that all started.
Well, you had a great career in the IBL. Labatt Park always has a great crowd and some of the best fans in the league. What was it like playing in front of them?
It was great. I always say it's like the hidden gem in London. I think a lot of people, once they get the chance to experience going to Labatt Park for a game, it's something that they really enjoy. And the fans there are loyal and they care about their baseball, they care about their players. And more importantly to me, the kids are extremely excited to come out and see the guys play. And that's something, like I said, that I remember as a kid. So I always look forward to that, making sure that they had a good time and that they'd get the opportunity to interact with some of the players. So.
Now, the IBL as a league has changed quite a little bit since you played, but there is some mainstays and some teams that are no longer in the league. Was there a favorite place for you to play when you played for the majors over 3 seasons?
Yeah, there was, but it would depend on what, was my favorite thing at the time. And the only reason I say that is Brantford was a great place to play just because of the competitive nature of that team during my tenure. When I was playing for the majors, they were, doing what Barry's doing now, winning back-to-back championships. So that was always a good environment to go into. Christie Pitts has historical value for me growing up in Toronto. Plus, it's, the porches are short there, so it's a little bit fun to get it in the air and see what happens. And then Barry was also a lot of fun too, just because of the trip. I just have vivid memories of getting on the bus and traveling all the way to Barry, playing in that stadium there, and then traveling back. Some great memories doing that too. So favorite places for different reasons.
Yeah, for sure. The trips to Barrie are always long ones, but it's some great bonding time for guys on the team. And speaking of that bonding for players, do you still keep in contact with some guys that were on those teams?
I do. So Cleveland and I are good friends. His son and my daughter, they play regularly, especially before COVID. So I see him all the time. I'm still in contact with Paul Lamantia, several times per week. Chris Chambers, Snacks, Cam Simpson, Tyler Graham, Max Scrogan. So a few of the guys I still talk to pretty regularly outside of baseball since, we've all stopped playing. So.
Now, we talked to a few guys that had the chance to share the field with you over a few seasons when you played. A lot of them kind of go back to the same thing about, the leadership that you bring both on the field in the clubhouse. Do you have kind of a philosophy that you like to follow in terms of leadership?
Yeah, you know what? I think for me, I was lucky enough coming up to play under some guys who played professionally and then they ended up coaching me. And one of the things they just always stressed was to control what you can control, which is really your work ethic, right? I mean, everything else is kind of, you know, up for grabs per se. Something could happen that's out of your control, but what you can control is how hard you're going to work. And that was really just my biggest philosophy, was to lead by example, to show that, your work ethic is really your biggest trait. And I think it's the easiest thing to spot when you're trying to find your way in a team, is to find the person who shows up on time, shows up early, is consistent, is respectful, is a good teammate, and then ultimately is a good leader, because you don't necessarily have to be in a leadership role to be a leader, right? So those were the things that I tried to practice and then by example have others follow.
It's great that you're able to motivate some guys to continue with a strong work ethic, because as you mentioned there, it's one of the biggest things that coaches look for when they evaluate players for coming to a team. Moving on now, you come back to Labatt Park every once in a while to watch games, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How different is it from the fan perspective being on the field to being in that rowdy crowd?
Well, it's different because, you can kind of come when you want to, and you leave when you want to. So, you got that flexibility. And then on top of that, you don't have the pressure, albeit good pressure, of being in the game. You get to just watch. And, depending who you're with, you can point certain things out, which I enjoy doing. So it's just a relaxed environment. You get to take it all in, see some old friends, see some old fans. And that's always fun to do.
Now, you haven't played with the majors for a number of years now, but have you been kind of keeping in the game a little bit? Have you been playing baseball anywhere since then?
No, the last time I swung a baseball bat was actually in Barrie in 2013 in the playoffs. That's literally the last time I hit a baseball with a baseball bat. Um, I've been just trying to hit a golf ball with a golf club ever since. That's still a work in progress, but that's basically all I've been doing. I haven't played, but I'm thinking about playing again probably next year in some capacity. My daughter will be 5 years old next summer, so I want her to have a memory, her own memory, not just pictures or videos of her dad, running out there and swinging and playing and whatnot. So that's kind of on the horizon, but we'll see. We'll see how the next year goes.
Well, it's obviously really nice to get back into the game any way you can. Shifting over to some fan questions now, we got quite a few of them. One of them that we really liked was what's harder to follow up as a hitter, an 0 for 4 game or a 4 for 4 game?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, I had a little bit of a different mentality. I didn't necessarily focus on whether I went 0 for 4 or 4 for 4 in regards to getting hits. I like to focus on what kind of contact I made in a game. So if I went 0 for 4 and I hit the ball square 3 out of those 4 times, I'm going to be happy with that 0 for 4 because I know I'm on the ball and things are going really well. So I would always say, regardless of any of that, it's harder to follow up an 0 for 4 game because you got to get out of whatever rut you might have been in, right? Especially depending on how that game went for you. But for me, I found it a lot easier to just focus on, making good contacts, swinging at good pitches, and measuring that as opposed to whether I was 0 for 4 or 4 for 4 or whatever it may be.
Now, over the last few weeks here on Majors Quarantine Corner, we've had a former London Major, Keith Candell, send in some of his questions, and he was nice enough to send us a video this week with his question for you. So we'll play that right now.
Hello, Adwin. While we never played together on the majors, I did play against you in 2013. That year, you and Cleveland were the most prolific power hitters in the lineup. Now, being a position player, I was always terrified by you because your legs were the size of my entire body. But I want to know, who do you think pitchers were more terrified of, you or the big dog?
So, yeah, that's a great question. Cleve is a jovial, loving guy. He kind of has that personality that a lot of people gravitate to. Um, for me, between the lines, I was a little bit of a different character set. I was a little bit more serious. So I don't know. I could say it both ways, I guess. People might have feared, leaving the ball over the plate for Cleve, but they might have feared missing their spot out of the zone with me, depending on who that person is. So hard to say. But I think we just really wanted to go out there and at least have people respect what we could do. And if that turned into fear, then so be it. If it obviously worked in our advantage, so.
For sure. And of course, you guys, two of the most intimidating hitters in the league when you were both playing with the majors. So, two very talented players and some awesome guys off the field as well, and even on it. Final fan question here. This one comes from a former teammate of yours, Byron Reichstein. He asks, who had the better arm in their prime, you or him?
That's a great question. Who played more right field? Do you guys know? Was it him or I?
I don't have it off the top of my head here.
I think I did. So I'm going to say me just because of that reason, because as we all know, that's where the stronger arm goes. So I'll give him, tracking the balls and all that stuff as something that he probably had over me. But in my prime, my arm strength was pretty good. But I mean, his was good too. So I don't know. We'll call it a toss-up.
I'm sure Byron will like to hear that. It's one thing that he certainly can bring to the field is his arm strength. Adwin, we thank you for joining us today. We won't take up too much more of your time, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you at the ballpark in the future.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, Dylan, another great episode there with Adwin Springer joining us today on episode 8 of Majors Quarantine Corner. Really one of the nicest guys you could talk to and a former London Major.
For sure, Adwin, a great guy, and you heard it right there. You and I didn't really get a chance to talk to him prior to this interview, but Adwin, such a great person to talk to, and he shared some great leadership philosophies there, and some stories from his fantastic years with the London Majors. He talked about how he still keeps in contact with some of the players that he played with back then, and a great interview.
Yeah, it's always good to hear when guys are still keeping in contact with a lot of the guys they played with, especially in a case like Adwin Springer. He hasn't played for the Majors since 2013, and he still keeps in contact with a lot of the guys, and of course has been to Majors games over the years and really been a good leader on and off the field.
Yeah, Adam was a great leader on and off the field during his time with the Majors. He really knew how to motivate players and also how to have a heart-to-heart conversation with them. He could really talk to you on every level you can think of. So Adam, a great leader, and he's a great guy to have around the ballpark when he comes to games every once in a while to check out how the Majors are doing and to talk to some guys that he used to play with as well. Cleveland Brownlee, of course. Those two were teammates back then. And imagine, Noah, you were a pitcher. Imagine facing those two in the middle of the order.
That is the stuff of nightmares, Dylan. That's for sure. Coming up next week on the show, we have former London Major Mike DeLong joining us, Dylan, which will be another great conversation with us as we slowly start to wind things down here on Majors Quarantine Corner.
Yeah, things are winding down, of course, but Mike DeLong, we're very excited to talk to him. Should be a great interview.
Absolutely. So that will come next week. And as for us, Dylan, we'll head out of here, and we thank you for watching with us today.